You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Insiders fume as Trump's biggest fixation causes him to strike out constantly, based on an article by Thomas Kikut. Trump's SAVE Act obsession is a blame-shifting machine. The power is still with Trump. The Hill's reporting is straightforward about the basic power structure. Trump is the one driving this fight, and everyone else is reacting to him. He is the president. He is withholding a bipartisan housing bill, and he is using his office as leverage to force a doomed election measure forward. That matters because this is not a legislative misunderstanding. It is an exercise in presidential power being spent on a symbolic fight he already knows is unlikely to become law. The bill is the point, and the failure is the plan. Trump's fixation on the SAVE Act is not just policy stubbornness. According to the source, he has tied the bill to his own false claims of widespread voter fraud and admitted he does not believe Congress will pass it. Yet he keeps pressing anyway. That is the tell. A serious governing agenda does not revolve around an outcome the president says will not happen. This is political theater built to preserve grievance, not to solve a problem. Misdirection is doing the real work. The article's most revealing detail is the way blame is being prepositioned. The anonymous GOP strategist says the point may be to create a failure that can later be pinned on Senate Republicans for not nuking the filibuster. That is classic responsibility laundering. Trump pushes an unworkable demand, then prepares to treat the resulting collapse as proof that someone else sabotaged him. The actual decision-maker stays centered while the institutional losers absorb the damage. Hostage politics, not governance. Trump canceling the signing ceremony for a bipartisan housing affordability bill tells you what kind of leverage he thinks he has. He is willing to hold up a popular, materially useful bill that would address a real pain point for voters just to keep the SAVE Act in play. That is not bargaining in any ordinary sense. It is hostage politics. Sacrifice a concrete benefit now to sustain a narrative about fraud later. The housing bill is not a casualty of confusion. It is collateral damage from obsession. The GOP's complaint is about timing, not principle. The sources quoted by The Hill are not objecting to the substance of Trump's election crusade. They are objecting to the timing, the wasting of political capital, and the disorder it creates before the midterms. That is a telling distinction. The complaint is not that Trump is lying about the election or weaponizing anti-voter rhetoric. It is that he is doing it inefficiently, at a moment when the party wants discipline. The party's problem is not moral, it is managerial. The pattern, failed strongman politics, needs permanent enemy-making. This story fits a larger pattern that has defined Trump's politics from the beginning. Never concede, never absorb blame, never let the institution's purpose get in the way of the grievance. The strategist quoted in the piece says Trump sees his claims of election interference as a way to avoid admitting defeat. That is the operating principle. When politics is organized around refusal, policy becomes secondary to narrative maintenance. Bills are not passed or blocked on merit. They are used to create villains, preserve ego, and keep a loss from ever looking like a loss. That is not an accident in the system. It is the system working as designed by a man who treats government as a stage for denial. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article. With the automated voice of Clara, thanks for listening.